After Chloe died, her daughter branded her as the homewrecker who had ruined the relationship between her father, William, and her aunt, Samantha. Pointing at Chloe's grave, the girl cursed at her. You schemed your way into Dad's bed back then. You caused Aunt Samantha's depression and made Dad suffer for his entire life. But no one knew that back then, Samantha had actually despised William. She had unexpectedly drugged Chloe and sent her into William's bed just so she could smoothly break up with him. Now, William was a nationally renowned professor, and after Chloe's death, Samantha came back to shift the blame onto her. When Chloe opened her eyes again, she had returned to the night before William and Samantha's wedding. Looking at the drugged water Samantha was handing her, Chloe smiled. In this life, those two were going to be locked together forever.
Hey guys, if you got a second chance at life, what would you change? Today's story follows Chloe. Betrayed by her toxic family, she travels back in time to rewrite her fate. Let's dive in.
Chloe gripped the cup. The cola inside faintly reflected her silhouette, revealing a face untouched by the heavy traces of time. Bubbles rose from the bottom of the glass and popped, splashing drops of cold liquid onto the back of her hand. The icy sensation was almost too real. Chloe had been reborn. She had returned to the very night before William and Samantha were set to tie the knot. Chloe, this is a foreign novelty that I asked a friend to bring back. You couldn't buy it even if you had the money. Samantha looked at Chloe with a face full of expectation. In the era when Chloe was still young, a highly demanded commodity like cola was indeed hard to come by. And it was exactly this cup of drugged cola that had bound Chloe and William together, completely ruining Chloe's life. What are you looking at me for? Whenever I have something good, don't I always think of you? Hurry up and drink it. I couldn't even bear to give it to anyone else. Samantha leaned in like a venomous snake, wrapping herself around Chloe's arm and trying to push the cup forward. Chloe still vividly remembered what happened. The last time she drank this cup of cola, she passed out, only to bafflingly wake up in William's bed the next day. Samantha, fully dressed, was the first to rush into the room, pointing at Chloe and swearing profusely. William was a high school teacher. Sleeping with his future sister-in-law the night before his wedding would create a terrible scandal. If someone reported it, not only would he lose his job, but things could escalate to the point where he might be convicted of hooliganism and thrown into prison. Chloe's reputation was ruined, making it completely impossible for her to ever marry into a good family. Left with no other choice, their parents asked the village elders to make a decision, ultimately forcing William to marry Chloe. To compensate Samantha, Samantha took Chloe's spot to go to college, and from then on, led a brilliant, successful life. Thinking about all this, Chloe's heart felt like it was going to explode. Bad people suffered no retribution, while good people were left to suffer. Even the heavens couldn't stand to watch anymore, which was why she had been given this rare chance at rebirth. This time, she definitely wouldn't believe a single word Samantha said. You're always so good to me, sis, and I actually happen to be thirsty, Chloe said. She dodged Samantha's hand and slowly raised the cup toward her own lips. Samantha's almond-shaped eyes were wide and round, staring intensely at Chloe, terrified of missing a single movement. Suddenly, Chloe stumbled, and using her own momentum, she splashed the cup of cola squarely forward. Samantha got a face full of cola. The way she stomped her feet and screamed made her look exactly like a cat with its fur standing on end. Chloe, you little brat, I'm going to make Mom beat you up. Chloe apologized profusely while secretly rejoicing. This time, she would absolutely not give Samantha the opportunity to harm her. William's family was from out of town, and both of his parents had passed away. While the school staff dormitories were being renovated, he had been renting the west wing of Chloe's family home. Samantha had an outgoing personality and was very beautiful. As they interacted, she eventually caught William's eye. The two of them got together, and their marriage was quickly arranged, with everyone praising them as a perfect match. However, a few bold girls from the area had gone down south to work, and they brought back tales of the outside world. These stories constantly influenced Samantha's heart. More than once during the New Year's visits, Chloe had heard them chatting about men and money. For a woman, getting married and finding a partner is like a second reincarnation, they would say. A girl from the neighboring town found a rich guy, and now she's living the high life, eating the best food and riding around in cars. It's so luxurious. If I had your looks, why would I worry about not hooking a wealthy guy out there? Your sister is good at studying. If she gets into college in the future, she'll naturally be successful and wealthy. But you're marrying a poor teacher. How many pennies does he earn in a month? It's not even enough for us sisters to go out for a single meal. Samantha just listened in silence, but the way she looked at William was no longer as passionate as before. Looking back, it was right around that time that she started scheming against Chloe. In their area, the tradition was for the groom's party to pick up the bride before dawn. As the bride's younger sister, Chloe was supposed to get up early to block the door and demand cash envelopes from the groom. Their mother had told the two sisters to sleep in the same room so they could look out for each other. But Chloe knew that since Samantha hadn't succeeded in drugging her earlier, she wouldn't just let it go. As soon as she lay down on the bed, Chloe clutched her stomach and groaned. Samantha turned on the light and asked impatiently, "What are you wailing for? Are you going to let anyone sleep?" Chloe bit her lip and fake cried, "Sis, my stomach hurts." Samantha's eyes darted around. She got out of bed and said, "You're always so much trouble. I have some medicine here. Wait a second, I'll get it for you." Chloe knew it definitely wouldn't be any kind of good medicine. She slipped out of bed in a flash, threw on her coat, and ran outside. "Sis, I need to use the outhouse. I can't hold it." She darted straight into Grandma's room. Grandma loved her the most. Her rough, large hands rubbed circles on Chloe's stomach, massaging it until she felt incredibly comfortable. In her past life, after Chloe married William, he always believed she had used dirty tricks to trap him into the marriage, so he despised her. He never visited her family, nor did he allow her to go back. Later, as he climbed the ranks at work and was transferred to the city, the number of times she visited her family dwindled even more. She couldn't even attend Grandma's funeral. Chloe hugged Grandma's neck tightly, tears welling up and spilling from her eyes. She would absolutely not repeat the mistakes and missed opportunities of her past life. Samantha married him, albeit unwillingly. In their town, the custom was to hold the wedding ceremony first, and then go get the actual marriage certificate around the time a baby was born. She claimed she wasn't feeling well and simply refused to consummate the marriage with William. The joke eventually reached the school, and people mocked William behind his back. A married man living like a monkey was the first in the whole village. Ironically, he was still completely infatuated with Samantha, shamelessly sucking up to her all day long. As soon as he got his paycheck, he would take her to the city to buy dresses and eat at restaurants. His meager monthly salary of a few $dozen would be completely squandered in a matter of days. As long as Samantha was happy, he felt the money was well spent. At first, their mother tried to talk some sense into them, but seeing that her advice fell on deaf ears, she suggested splitting the household. Originally, she had hoped William would act as a live-in son-in-law and contribute to the family's expenses. Instead, he just ended up being another mouth to feed. Samantha refused to agree to the split. She was destined to be someone who couldn't endure hardship or suffering. Knowing exactly how little William was actually capable of, she knew that if they really split from the family, she would end up starving to death. In the end, the issue of splitting the household faded away unresolved. Then, they turned their scheming sights back onto Chloe. But before their mother could even shoot Chloe a look, Grandma threw down her tobacco pipe. "Don't any of you even think about messing with my Chloe. This old lady has never had a grandson in her life. I only had this one girl, Chloe, but she is 100 times better than a grandson. She is someone who is going to go to college. She's going to bring great honor to our family's ancestors. Don't even think about making a living by selling your daughter, chewing on your daughter's flesh, and drinking your daughter's blood. Aren't you afraid of being thrown into a boiling cauldron in hell when you die? Tell Aunt Flora from the village entrance to stop wandering around our door, or this old lady will tear her mouth right off." Aunt Flora was a local matchmaker who roamed the streets and alleys arranging marriages for singles. Their mother had barely spoken up before Grandma shut her down. She shrank her neck back and didn't dare to scheme against Chloe anymore. In this family, Grandma was the one who loved Chloe the most. In the blink of an eye, the college admission letter arrived. This time, Chloe was smart about it. When she got the letter from the school, she didn't tell her family. She only let Grandma know. Grandma dug out a bundle wrapped in red silk cloth from the bottom of her pitch-black trunk and stuffed it directly into Chloe's arms. "Don't tell them. Don't tell anyone. Just be a good girl, get the money changed, and go to school." That was Grandma's dowry. Chloe threw herself into her arms, unable to stop the tears from streaming down her face. "Grandma, you have to take good care of yourself and just wait to enjoy the good life I'll give you." Grandma laughed and patted Chloe's back. Okay. I'll wait to enjoy my Chloe's good fortune." When Chloe came out of Grandma's room, she found that William had been kicked out again. Thinly dressed and barefoot, he stood in the courtyard. At this time, he was still very young, but there were 2 scratch marks on his gaunt cheeks, clearly Samantha's handiwork. Seeing Chloe come out, he smiled awkwardly and slowly turned his back to her. In her past life, he had reserved all his coldness and alienation for Chloe. She had explained countless times that someone had tampered with things back then and that she was innocent, but he refused to believe it no matter what. He was absolutely convinced that she was a despicable, shameless, and scheming woman who had deliberately broken up him and Samantha. He spent very little time at home, living mostly in the school dormitories. Everyone knew his married life was unhappy, believing that during a low point in his life, he was forced to marry an uneducated rural woman. Chloe had gone to the school to look for him a few times, but his colleagues always covered for him and wouldn't let her see him. There were even a few bold students who spoke disrespectfully and mocked her. Only then did she realize what a laughable reality her existence was. The issue between them wasn't a misunderstanding. It was just that he simply wouldn't listen. Once, when he was drunk, he mistook Chloe for Samantha. While they were intimate, he called out Samantha's name over and over again. Chloe's numb heart ached uselessly. Afterwards, she asked him for a divorce and ran back to her family home. When her parents found out about this, they completely refused to accept it. They felt that being able to marry William was already a huge bargain for Chloe, and that causing such a fuss meant she didn't know her place. Fate truly made a fool of people. A month later, Chloe found out she was pregnant. Her parents sent her back to her home in the city, forcing her with fawning smiles to apologize to William. They even made her write a letter of guarantee, promising that she would be sensible, obedient, and never bring up the topic of divorce again. For the sake of the child, William forgave her, and before her parents left, he even gave them $100. Chloe suddenly understood. To William, she was just a tool to build his image as a suffering, good man. To her parents, she was a bargaining chip to make money. Only to herself, she didn't even count as a human being. Now that we have a child, don't mention the divorce again. Just take good care of the kid, and let's just live our days like this, he had said. William went back to the school again, only showing up at the hospital when she was giving birth. Chloe clenched her teeth, refusing to let herself let out a single cry. Yet, when her daughter's cries pierced the silence, Chloe couldn't help but shed tears of frustration. She had wanted to name the child Ava, a bird spreading its wings to fly, possessing the power and courage to control her own destiny. But William just gave her a faint look and said, "Let's call her Samara, it has a beautiful meaning." Chloe stopped arguing, closed her eyes, and let her tears quietly slip into her hairline. Samara and Samantha ho, much must he love her sister to weave his lover's name into his own daughter's. From then on, Chloe began raising the child and managing the household chores all by herself. Day and night, she repeated the same routine like a numb, senseless beast of burden. She was the one who carried her child, burning with a high fever, to the hospital in the dead of night for an IV drip. She was the one who hauled heavy propane tanks up the stairs without stopping for a single breath. Then, she had to watch as the daughter she had painstakingly raised drifted further and further away from her, constantly claiming that Chloe was uneducated and didn't understand her. She watched her daughter slowly gravitate toward her college professor father, not even coming back to visit for the holidays. And even after Chloe died, her daughter pointed at her grave and cursed her, calling her a bad person while praising them as the good ones. Chloe's entire life of suffering existed merely to highlight their hardships, and her death served only to prove their undying love for each other. Thinking about all this, how could she not feel hatred? William spoke up again, pulling her wandering thoughts back to reality. "Chloe, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Chloe shook her head, quickly swallowing the tears of regret in her eyes. She wasn't unwell. In fact, just the thought of leaving these terrible people behind made her whole body feel incredibly refreshed. Chloe, could you do me a favor?" William scratched his head in embarrassment, his demeanor full of awkwardness. He was nothing like the famous professor he became in their past life, who charged by the hour for his lectures, and spoke to her in a bossy, arrogant tone, far removed from his current politeness. "I don't know what's wrong with your sister. She keeps saying she isn't feeling well. I figured since you two are sisters, it's easier for you to talk to her. Could you help me ask her what's going on?" When he said this, he even sounded a bit humble and pleading. If he knew that Samantha was perfectly fine and simply didn't want to marry a poor man like him, would he still be this calm? Across both lifetimes, Samantha's temperament hadn't changed one bit. She was selfish, greedy, unscrupulous, and completely lacked a bottom line. If William hadn't become a nationally renowned professor, would Samantha have still stayed by his side and acted as his devoted soulmate? Chloe was very curious. She lowered her eyes in thought, hesitating as if she wanted to say something but was holding back. "Just tell me, what exactly is wrong with your sister?" William asked, his face full of anxiety. "My sister doesn't have any major illness. She's just had a weak constitution since childhood. The doctor said it's best for her to take ginseng to nourish her body. You know what ginseng is, right?" "The bigger, the better," Chloe said earnestly. William nodded foolishly. His eyes darted around, probably trying to figure out where he could get his hands on a large ginseng root. Just then, their mother opened the door and yelled at Chloe, "Why aren't you sleeping in the middle of the night? What are you out here talking about? Get back inside right now." Chloe hurriedly ran into the house, while William even nodded and thanked her. "Thanks for nothing. she thought. In their past life, during her twilight years, when she felt unwell and wanted him to take her to the hospital, he had completely refused. He claimed he had to attend some seminar, but Chloe had already seen Samantha's name on the conference bulletin her daughter had brought back, and Chloe had been kept completely in the dark. They used the excuse of attending academic conferences to secretly meet up, treating her as if she were completely invisible. Worse yet, her daughter constantly covered for them, claiming they were just kindred spirits, the kind of rare soulmates who truly understood each other's passions. Even on Chloe's birthday, when her daughter had rarely agreed to have a meal with her, the girl left Chloe at the table to secretly make a phone call on the balcony. "Aunt Samantha, I really want to be with you and Dad," she had said. "But I have no choice. I already promised her I'd spend her birthday with her. Honestly, it's incredibly boring. We have absolutely nothing in common to talk about. It's just the same few questions over and over again. What am I eating? What am I wearing? Do I have a boyfriend? It's so annoying. You're the one who really understands me, Aunt Samantha. You know exactly what I want. Thank you so much for the gift you specifically brought back from abroad for me. I've wanted it for a long time. If only you were my mom." Chloe had felt as if she were struck by lightning, unable to move a single muscle. The daughter she had loved with her very life actually despised her this much, and even wished someone else was her mother. "I'm a bit tired. You can go back now?" Chloe had said, collapsing onto the sofa and propping her forehead up with her hand. Her daughter could barely suppress the excitement on her face. "Really?" she asked. Chloe didn't want to force another fake expression to deal with her, so she simply nodded in response. "Then get some rest early. I'm leaving." After her daughter left, Chloe looked up at the clock. From the moment she arrived to the moment she left, it hadn't even been half an hour. Was being with Chloe really that difficult? She was so much happier when she was with Samantha. It was as if those three were the real family, while Chloe was just a superfluous joke. Chloe had flipped the table, destroying the meal she had worked so hard to prepare. Her birthday cake had 50 candles stuck in it, even though she was clearly only 48. Her entire life had been steadily worn away. Chloe secretly packed her bags for college. She didn't have many belongings to begin with. Most of her clothes and shoes were Samantha's old hand-me-downs. After sorting through everything, she only had a few decent items, which she temporarily stored in Grandma's room. That room was her secret base. As for the dowry bracelet Grandma had given her, Chloe had asked someone to take it to the neighboring town to inquire about its value, but she hadn't received a reply yet. She was currently working odd jobs at the home of a major garlic farmer in the village, hoping to earn some living expenses first. Suddenly, a neighbor, Aunt Mary, ran over frantically, grabbed Chloe's hand, and dragged her toward home. "What's wrong, Aunt Mary? Is the house on fire?" Chloe asked. "Bite your tongue. Your house isn't on fire, but you need to hurry back and look. They're making so much noise they're about to tear the roof off the place." Chloe jogged all the way back. As long as Grandma was fine, everything else was just trivial nonsense. Before she even walked through the door, she heard the crashing sounds of tables and chairs being smashed in the west wing. Her mother was standing outside the door, as anxious as a cat on a hot tin roof. Seeing Chloe arrive, her mother grabbed her hand. "Oh, my life, what kind of terrible fate does your sister have? William, that chaotic demon, that brainless walking disaster, he's going to drag our family down to death." Chloe gave a hollow, forced smile. For her mother to be in this much agonizing pain, it was 9 times out of 10 because someone had touched her money. In this household, money ranked first, and Samantha ranked second. Her mother had said more than once that if she hadn't been hoping to give birth to a boy, she never would have kept a money-losing burden like Chloe. She had originally wanted to give Chloe away, and it was only Grandma who had fiercely stepped in to stop her. Later, when her mother's health failed and she was diagnosed as unable to have more children, she had slowly come to accept Chloe. Chloe's opportunity to go to school was entirely fought for by Grandma wielding her tobacco pipe. "He took a 6-month advance on his salary just to buy a ginseng root to nourish your sister's body." Her mother sobbed uncontrollably. "It breaks my heart. Half a year's salary, that's got to be over $300. Her mother cried. "That's a good thing, Mom. Look how much my brother-in-law loves my sister. He really listens to what he's told." "I just wonder where he managed to buy such a large ginseng root," Chloe replied. "Good my ass. That William is a complete idiot. How would he know the difference between real and fake? He didn't even realize he was scammed. He brought back some rotten piece of tree root, and after your sister drank it, she's been vomiting and having diarrhea nonstop. She's throwing up bile. One dared to buy it, and the other dared to drink it. They were truly a match made in heaven." Those two deserved to be locked together forever. Chloe pretended to be alarmed, grabbing her mother's hand and trying to rush into the house. "We need to get my sister to the clinic right away. We can't let her die from food poisoning." Hearing this, her mother finally snapped back to reality. Yes, 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 to the clinic to pump her stomach. Hurry up and get your sister's stomach pumped. With the help of Chloe, her mother, and the neighbors who had come over to watch the commotion, Samantha was dragged and pulled all the way to the town clinic. Someone yelled out, "She's poisoned! We need to pump her stomach!" The doctor didn't say another word, immediately grabbing Samantha and forcing water down her throat. Chloe stood outside the door with her mother, listening to the violent sounds of retching and vomiting coming from inside. Her mother started beating William, who just hung his head and didn't dare to dodge. "You bastard! You son of a bitch! If anything happens to my daughter, you're finished. Just you wait!" Her mother screamed at him. Then, she turned to Chloe and wailed, playing the victim. "Chloe, if your sister doesn't make it, Mom will have to rely entirely on you from now on." Chloe patted her back, sneering coldly in her heart. She hadn't said that in their past life. Back then, Samantha had stolen Chloe's college admission spot, gone to university, and been assigned a good job right after graduation. She was beautiful, knew how to navigate social situations, and married an honest man from a well-off family. Every time she returned home for the new year, she was decked out in designer clothes and brought back imported gifts. Her mother would treasure Samantha while shooting disdainful looks at Chloe, who always stood there alone and isolated. "Look at your sister. She's doing well for herself, but she never forgets her family," her mother would scold. "I only have 2 daughters. One came to repay a debt of gratitude, and the other came to collect a debt. Just look at those shameful, underhanded things you did back then. No wonder your husband despises you. I'm relying on your sister for the rest of my life. I certainly can't rely on you. Don't come back so often if you don't have a good reason. Just looking at you gives me a headache." Later, Samantha was widowed early on. She transferred her work to the school, and her interactions with William gradually increased. Photos of the two of them often appeared in the school journal, and many people secretly tried to play matchmaker for them. As for Chloe, the legitimate wife, she had already become a stumbling block between these two lovers. One year, on the second day of the new year, William actually offered to go home with Chloe. It was only later that she realized Samantha was also there. Unworn by the hardships of life, Samantha looked much younger than Chloe, her every gesture exuding maturity and confidence. Chloe hid in the kitchen, cooking. As she brought each dish to the table, she was scolded for being oblivious and not knowing how to make soup. "Chloe, these mussels should be made with butter and white wine to be considered authentic French cuisine. Boiling them in water is a bit of a waste of such good ingredients," Samantha remarked. "Haven't you ever had them before? That shouldn't be the case. Doesn't William often go abroad for seminars?" Samantha cast a meaningful glance at William. He cleared his throat and patted their daughter's head. "Next time, Daddy will take you to have a French feast, okay?" Their daughter clapped her hands excitedly. "Yay, that's wonderful. Daddy and Aunt Samantha are the best." Chloe silently retreated to the small kitchen. Looking at the unused mussels in the basin, she felt a heavy stifling block in her chest. "What mussels? They're just ordinary seashells. Around here, everyone just stir-fries them with a ton of garlic," Chloe retorted stubbornly, though the tears still streamed down her face uncontrollably. They looked like a true family of 3. She was ultimately just an outsider. The stomach pumping had completely drained Samantha of her arrogance. She lay limply on the hospital bed, shedding tears. "Divorce. I want to divorce him." Their mother's heart ached terribly. Hugging Samantha, she agreed and told her to get a divorce. William had only been married for a short time and hadn't tasted a single bit of sweetness yet, so naturally, he was 100% against the idea of divorce. However, he was completely in the wrong here. How could he have been so hot-headed that he couldn't tell real from fake, letting himself get scammed out of half a year's salary? He dropped to his knees with a thud in front of Samantha's bed and begged, "Samantha, I didn't mean to hurt you. I just wanted to buy some ginseng to nourish your body. Who knew it would turn out like this? It's all my fault for making you suffer. From now on, I will treat you 100, 1,000 times better. I'll give you whatever you want, okay?" Samantha rolled over, completely unforgiving. "Divorce! I want a divorce." Left with no other options, William turned to their father for help. Their father still thought highly of William. In his eyes, having a stable job that paid a salary every month was better than anything else. "Enough, stop making a fuss," he ordered. "You've embarrassed yourselves all the way to town. Hurry up and get ready to go home. Stop making a fool of yourselves in public." Their father's gaze drifted over to Chloe, and he asked casually, "I just heard the doctor at the clinic say his son's college admission letter arrived. Why hasn't there been any news about yours?" Chloe knew she couldn't hide it anymore. She would have to tell them sooner or later anyway. "I already received it." Her father's eyes widened in a glare. "Then why didn't you say anything to us?" "The family was busy with the wedding," Chloe mumbled, pretending to hesitate. A heavy silence fell over the hospital room. Their mother was the first to speak up. The family just finished paying for your sister's wedding, and now your brother-in-law won't have a salary for half a year. We definitely don't have any spare money for you to go to school. Chloe's anxious heart finally went dead. Even with a second chance at life, they still wouldn't do a single thing for her. Fortunately, she had planned ahead. Fortunately, she still had her grandmother looking out for her. For now, she just needed to put on an act. "Mom, Dad, I really want to go to college," she pleaded. "Please just let me go. You can consider it a loan. Once I graduate and start working, I'll definitely pay you back." "What's the point of a girl like you going to school?" her mother shot back. "In the end, you're just going to get married anyway. Whether it's early or late, you have to marry. You might as well marry early and save the family another mouth to feed." After her mother finished speaking, she glanced at Chloe's father. Seeing that he wasn't going to scold her, her confidence surged, and she continued, "If it were up to me, after you finished middle school, we should have found someone to get you a job so you could earn some money for the family for a few years before getting married. But your grandmother stood in the way and insisted you finish high school. Now that you've been admitted, it's just another bottomless pit for our money. Where is our family supposed to get that kind of cash?" As her mother said this, she didn't forget to shoot a few glares at William. He didn't dare say a word, just keeping his head tucked down as he kneeled by the bed. Her father thought for a moment before making a decision. "Chloe, the family can't afford to support you anymore. I'll have your uncle find some work for you in town. Go home, pack your things, and move out there." Chloe let out a couple of symbolic sobs. Grandma's dowry bracelet was a real antique, and the buyer had paid a substantial amount of money for it. Living in town would actually be perfect. She had already asked one of her school teachers to help buy her train ticket, so leaving from town would be much more convenient. Her mother roughly dragged her all the way back home. Once Chloe went into Grandma's room, she didn't come back out. Before leaving, she only took enough money for 1 year's tuition and living expenses. She left the rest for Grandma to keep for emergencies. After all, she was an old lady. In a family like this, what could she do without money? The job her uncle found for her was as a temporary worker at the town's fertilizer plant. Her mother had hoped she would be like the other girls in the village, going down south to make easier money and coming back to renovate the house. In the end, Chloe didn't go anywhere. She stayed at a classmate's house in town. His family owned a factory. She slept there at night to keep watch over the place, and during the day, she tutored his younger brother. She didn't have to worry about 3 meals a day, and she even managed to earn some money. She lived peacefully like this for over half a month. During the time she was away from home, she even gained a few pounds. That was until William came looking for her. She thought he was going to expose her, but surprisingly, the first thing out of his mouth was an apology. "I'm sorry. If I hadn't messed things up, you wouldn't have been dragged into this. Now you can't even go to college. You must be really full of regrets." Looking at his expression, it didn't seem fake. But when the words came out of his mouth, half true and half false, Chloe had to weigh them carefully. In their past life, when they let Samantha steal her spot for college, they didn't think for a second that Chloe would have regrets. They probably even felt she had brought it upon herself. "Do you need something from me?" Chloe asked, having no desire to catch up with an enemy. William pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose, his lips moving several times as if he were engaged in an intense internal struggle. "If you have something to say, just say it straight," Chloe said. "I still have things to do. A classmate asked me to go see a movie in town, and it's almost time. Unimportant people shouldn't waste my time." William finally raised his head. When their eyes met, that familiar surge of hatred returned. Chloe suppressed the urge to slap him across the face, patiently waiting for him to speak. With his forehead covered in sweat, he forced a smile and said, "I know this sounds pretty absurd, but with your sister's temper, if I didn't come, she'd absolutely insist on divorcing me. It's impossible." "Get to the point," Chloe said impatiently, already exercising a great deal of restraint. "Chloe. Look," William stammered. "Your college admission spot, could you let your sister go instead? Since the family doesn't have the money for you to go anyway, it would just go to waste if you didn't. It's better to give it to your sister. That way, it's a win-win for everyone, don't you think?" Chloe crossed her arms and scrutinized him. She wasn't surprised in the slightest that he could say such a thing. After all, he had done exactly this in their past life. The only difference was that back then, he had acted self-righteous and stern, whereas now he was acting hesitant. "So what if the family doesn't have money for me to go?" Chloe asked. "Do you have the money to send my sister?" A hint of smugness appeared on William's face. "You don't need to worry about that. I have a classmate who can lend me some money for an emergency. Regardless, I won't let your sister suffer." Down to this very moment, every single word out of his mouth was for her sister. If Chloe still didn't believe they were true love, she would almost feel sorry for all the suffering she had endured in her previous life. In places she couldn't see, they loved each other so deeply. It was also in her past life when she suddenly suffered a heart attack and subconsciously dialed his number. "I'm in a meeting, I'll call you back later," he had replied coldly. A meeting at 10 o'clock at night? Chloe had even heard a woman's voice coming through the phone. She would never forget that voice, for as long as she lived it was Samantha's. "Don't hang up, I'm in so much pain," Chloe had begged bitterly. Yet, all she got in return was his disgust. "If you're in pain, call 911. I'm not a doctor, I don't cure diseases." Hearing the dial tone, her heart went completely cold. At the end of her life, she had taken off her wedding ring. She hated the injustice this life had shown her. They all said she had ruined their lives, but hadn't they ruined hers just as much? Yet, the people closest to her remained stubbornly blind, unable to see the truth. After her death, her daughter had cursed at her grave. "You schemed your way into Dad's bed back then. You caused Aunt Samantha's depression and made Dad suffer for his entire life." Her soul, floating above, had almost shattered. If there was a next life, she would never sacrifice all her blood, sweat, and tears for a daughter like that. She would hide far, far away and see if they could actually stay happy until the very end. "I have to think about this. I've found 2 jobs tutoring during the day and watching a warehouse at night. Maybe if I save up a bit more, it will be enough," Chloe insisted. "Chloe, stop being so stubborn." "There's no way you can gather that much money," William said, growing a bit anxious. "If your parents find out you didn't go to work at the fertilizer plant and are still dead set on going to college, do you think they'll let you off the hook?" He was eager to convince her, falling right into the trap she had set by playing nice. "Even if there's only a little bit of hope, I have to fight for it," she maintained. William thought for a moment, frowning as he looked down, and quickly made a decision. "How about this? I'll give you the money, and you sell your college admission spot to me. I'll even keep it a secret for you. You can take the money and do whatever you want in town, and no one will be able to control you." Chloe smiled. He had finally said what she wanted to hear. "You're so good to my sister, William. If she knew, she'd definitely be devoted to you heart and soul." William smiled foolishly, the atmosphere between them lightening up significantly. "I knew you weren't a snob," he said. "To be honest, you're much more understanding than your sister. She is just too willful. Sometimes I think that if she were even half as sensible as you, it would be great, and I wouldn't have to go to such lengths." Finding her was supposed to be about settling down and living a good life. "I'm not just trying to get close to you, but ever since I met you, you've felt incredibly familiar. There's an indescribable feeling." Chloe couldn't help but take a few steps back. "No thanks," she thought. "You tortured me for a lifetime. Only a ghost would want to be familiar with you. In my past life, I was the one who settled down to live a good life, but you wanted more. People are just never satisfied." Aloud, she said, "Well, brother-in-law, sweet words aren't worth any money. You'd better hurry back and raise the funds." She waved her hand dismissively, waiting for him to deliver himself right to her doorstep. "All right, Chloe, it's a deal. I'll go back and raise the money right now. Your sister will definitely be thrilled when she hears the news," he said, turning around and leaving gleefully. Good luck, Chloe thought. If she was the one pushing things along behind the scenes, she could only say that he had been blinded, unable to distinguish good from bad or right from wrong. She watched his back as he walked further and further away, gradually blurring into a tiny dot. She hoped he would still be able to smile when the time came. By then, everything would be different. Whether he could withstand the cruel torment of fate would just depend on his luck. Chloe left the town a week early. By the time William had raised the money and come looking for her, the place was already empty. But the high-interest loan he had taken out couldn't simply be returned untouched. With the interest rolling over and the fact that he had already taken a 6-month advance on his salary, he had absolutely no ability to repay it. William had a classmate who specialized in loan sharking. Chloe had witnessed it in her past life, and in this life, it became the knife in her hand. Chloe arrived at the university, and her enrollment procedures went incredibly smoothly. Once her heavy coursework began, she had even less energy to care about matters on the outside. The world had become a beautiful place. Fair and just, without discrimination or prejudice, Chloe became even more convinced that her choice was right. The classmate from town sent her a letter, telling her some things about her family. William had been cornered at home by the loan sharks collecting his debt. He was even threatened that they would burn the house down and sell the land. The family lived in a constant state of panic. Those people even went to the school to make a scene. Because the nature of the incident was so severe, William lost his job and was suspended pending an investigation by the school. Only then did Samantha remember that she and William had never actually gotten their marriage certificate. Why should she have to pay off his debts? Enlightened by Samantha's point, Everyone in the family suddenly understood and drew a clear line between themselves and William. William was swept out of the house, beaten half to death by the debt collectors, and ultimately ended up wandering off to who knows where. Samantha finally went down south with her girlfriends from the village to do that kind of easy work where they could make money just by eating and singing. She wasn't seen back home for a long time. 1 year, she did go back. In the dead of winter, she was wearing a mink coat that exposed her waist, holding a chubby baby in her arms. Their parents said they couldn't afford to lose face like this and wanted to kick her out, but she was still the daughter they loved to the bone. In the end, they couldn't bring themselves to do it. After the new year, Aunt Flora found a match for Samantha widower with a limp. Their father was 100% in favor, saying the man had a formal job as an official employee at a state-owned enterprise. So what if his leg was disabled? It wouldn't affect how he slept or ate. Samantha hastily married the man, leaving the child at home. Less than 2 years later, the man was laid off. The two of them argued constantly, chasing and fighting each other from one end of the street to the other. Their mother sighed in relief, thinking it was a good thing they had found a cripple. Otherwise, what would happen if he could actually catch up to Samantha? During Chloe's junior year of college, she made a trip back. After being away for 3 years, her home had become increasingly dilapidated. Her mother cried and screamed again, grabbing her hand and saying that she could only rely on Chloe for the rest of her life. Her father was still talking about the fertilizer plant, calculating how much money she would have brought home over these 3 years if she hadn't gone to school. Chloe gave them some money, no more, no less. Exactly the amount she would have earned, working at the fertilizer plant for 3 years. It was money saved from her scholarships and odd jobs during the holidays. With this, her debt to them for raising her was settled once and for all. The main purpose of this trip back was to pick up Grandma. The old lady was sitting by the door smoking her pipe. When she saw Chloe, tears welled up in her shriveled eye sockets. "Grandma, I'm here to pick you up." "You're coming with me to enjoy a good life?" Chloe said. Grandma laughed and cried, giving Chloe a knowing look. Then, she tilted her body, slumped against the door, and lay perfectly still. The whole family panicked, pinching her philtrum, pouring cold water on her, and yelling to send her to the hospital. "Hurry to the hospital!" No one was willing to pay for Grandma's hospital bills. When Chloe offered to take Grandma away, her parents couldn't wait for her to sign the papers immediately. In their eyes, Grandma was already bedridden and reliant on others, a burden wherever she was placed. After her parents left, Grandma sat right up on the hospital bed, searching all over for her tobacco pipe. "Laying in bed being a good girl these past few days almost drove me crazy," she grumbled. Grandma took a few dry puffs of her pipe and hugged Chloe with a laugh. Chloe could finally be with the person she loved, no longer having to fear this or that. "Grandma, I'll graduate next year. Let's go down south, okay?" Chloe asked. "I'll listen to you. You're educated, so you definitely can't be wrong." Grandma agreed with a chuckle. The old and the young set off on their journey south. Chloe found a good job with a salary and benefits far exceeding her expectations. Then, before housing prices skyrocketed, they purchased several properties. Grandma's health was robust. Chloe wanted to buy a bracelet to repay her, but after looking around, not a single one caught her eye. A dowry is meant to save lives. Grandma comforted her. It was used for its proper purpose, so it had a good resolution. Chloe would take advantage of her annual leave to take Grandma traveling and see the sights. However, since many places prohibited smoking, Grandma's tobacco pipe couldn't travel with them, which was indeed a pity. Chloe eventually decided they should take a road trip instead. When their car reached the seaside, they spotted a beggar by the side of the road. "Chloe, look," Grandma said. "Doesn't he look like our family's unlucky son-in-law?" Chloe looked out the window. The man wore clothes that were greasy and shiny with dirt. His hair was matted into a solid clump, his beard was unkempt, and his face was pitch black. Chloe had to admire Grandma's incredibly sharp eyesight for even being able to recognize him. When taking a wife, a man should seek virtue. Lust is a dangerous knife hanging over one's head. William should have figured that out by now. Grandma adjusted her seat and leaned back comfortably. But it was too late for him. Not everyone gets a second chance to start over. Chloe stepped on the gas pedal, and the car sped away. The clear blue sea and sky ahead were the true journey for her and Grandma. As for everything else, it was all up to fate, entirely out of human hands. All they could do was live in the present. Living the present moment well was the only right path.
What a satisfying ending! Chloe proved that giving to selfish people only hurts you. She didn't seek revenge, she just set boundaries and let karma handle the rest. Always value yourself.